Hello and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About It. We are honoring African American businesses here in the city of Houston today and different entrepreneurs. Hence, my wonderful guest, Debra Lockett of 40 Plus.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. Now, I know the 40 Plus ladies have a lot of things going on here in the city of Houston. So just for you to even make it here today, we certainly appreciate it. Now, 40 Plus, for those that may not know, give us a little information about 40 Plus. I know you guys started in 1993, right? Mm-hmm. It was conceptualized in 1990.
Exactly.
But in 1993 is when it actually came to fruition.
Exactly.
And now tell me a little bit more about that. Your mom played a big part in it.
Mm-hmm. Calie Lewis Watson, over 20 years ago, had a vision. And that vision was to give scholarships to underprivileged students in the greater Houston area. And in doing that, the vehicle that she chose was a fashion show or modeling to raise funds to help these children.
Okay.
So many things developed out of that. It was her vision to use women over the age of 40. And these women over the age of 40 are not your typical women. These are women who are confident in themselves and enjoy entertaining a crowd. So it's not your average fashion show. It is sheer entertainment. So it started out small several years ago, and I know it was the Four Seasons and the Hyatt. And as the years passed, we outgrew all of these hotels throughout the years. And raising money to give scholarships to underprivileged children. These children are underprivileged by way of not only financially in homes where financially maybe they wouldn't normally go to college, but also maybe they have a C average. So, you know, your A students, they're going to make it to college, hopefully, but not all children learn the same. So we want to make sure that they get scholarships or be eligible for scholarships by way of 40 Plus models. So that's how it basically began, and then we want to empower women over the age of 40 and let them know that they still look good and they still have grace and style and they can still embrace the runway. Not necessarily a size 6 or 4. Because, you know, we've got some voluptuous women.
Absolutely.
And we have, of course, some smaller women. But when you see something or someone on the runway, you want to be able to relate to them and say, you know, I think I can do that. Or that outfit, you know what, it's meant for me. I think I can pull that outfit off. It's not your typical, it's not your typical small size models. So we like to incorporate everybody. So we're looking at supporting scholarship, giving scholarships to students. And then we have clothiers who come in and support also. And it's a win-win for them and for us because they support us with some of the clothing, not all of them, because if you're thinking about ever becoming a 40 Plus model, you must have a wardrobe of your own, just in case.
Is that right?
We don't have the clothiers.
So the 40 Plus women have to always be ready.
Always be ready.
Hence what happened today, because all the 40 Plus women that showed up in the audience are amazing.
Oh yes, they're wonderful.
And they came ready.
Yes, they did. Now I just took over a few years ago, but I really learned from these models actually. Because as a child I did a lot of modeling with my mom. But as I grew older I decided, you know, I don't think I'm going to do this thing anymore. I just kind of stepped back a little bit. But as I progressed and my mother became ill, I began to look at these women and began to see what the passion was that my mother had for these ladies. Some of them are still you know, the original models that started over 20 years ago. We have a couple that are still here. So I've learned a lot from them on how to actually run and manage 40 Plus, becoming the new president and CEO. Believe me, when they say there's no I in team, that's a true statement. Because we do a lot of things and there's absolutely no way I could do it by myself. So I'm grateful to have a team of women who, I mean, they're like a well-oiled machine, I promise you. And I'm not just bragging to be bragging. They do a wonderful job, and they've made my mother very proud.
I think that's fantastic. And you know what? It takes a team.
It does.
You know, nobody can do anything by themselves, but it's wonderful when you have a group of women that can come together on one accord in order for one goal to be to come to fruition.
That's right.
And success is certainly what the goal is. Now, one of the things I like that you just said, you mentioned women that are over 40. You know, a lot of times when...
And men, excuse me.
And men. So the organization is not just about... let's not forget the fellas. Let's not forget the fellas.
Yes,
all right?
yes, most definitely. Men and women.
And women.
Yes. As you were saying, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
It's perfectly all right. I totally understand. And you know what? I think it's great that you are actually putting people in general, so we're saying men and women over the age of 40, in the forefront, because a lot of times, especially in the modeling industry, at a certain age, people think, oh, well, you're this age, so you're too old to model. But certainly 40 plus has broken that barrier.
That's right.
That's not the case with 40 plus. You know, another thing that you said that I thought was really, really cool, you mentioned giving to the kids who did not have the grade point average that would be college bound. I think that's fantastic, because so often we miss those kids.
Exactly.
And we look at the ones who are with the 4.0 average and this type of thing to sow into them. But oftentimes it's the ones that don't have that grade point average that we need to sow into.
That's right.
And these are people that are just as good as anybody else.
Yes.
The thing is, they may learn differently.
That's right.
And because one person learns one way and another person learns another way, that doesn't make them, you know, obsolete.
That's correct.
So I think it's beautiful that you guys actually seek out those kids. Tell me a little bit about the, how do they find out about you guys?
There are many ways. We have a website. They can go to Calie Watson 40plusmodels.com.
Okay.
Make sure you put Houston in there though, so that you'll get the correct website. That's why we put Calie Lewis Watson 40 Plus Models or 40 Plus Models Houston, so that we can come up if you go to a search engine. The other way, of course, we can give them the email address. And they can contact us by way of email also. By way of email.
Now, I've had the privilege and the honor of actually being not only at one of the shows, but actually to be in one of the shows.
Right.
And it was a wonderful opportunity. I actually enjoyed the show so much, I almost want to just go and sit in the audience and check things out. One of the things that I noticed about everybody that walked on stage, they had so much life and so much energy.
We have fun. We have fun. You know, it's an escape route for some people. When they come, we have the everyday life of working and the kids, and you know, so when you come to a 40 plus show, it's time to just sit back, relax, because it's entertainment. It's not just a fashion show. One of our charter members is, I'll say her name, Ruthie Jones. And many people know her as the high-stepping Ruthie Jones. She's a charter member. She's been with my mother since the very existence. And they look forward to her at her age. We won't say her age. But Miss Ruthie has more life than probably the youngest person in 40 plus. And when she hits that runway, people wonder, my goodness, who is this woman?
Come on now.
Oh, Miss Ruthie tears it up, I'm telling you.
So Miss Ruthie got it going on.
Miss Ruthie has it going on. And we just love Miss Ruthie. But we have different scenes. For instance, in last year's show, we opened with a Western scene. And we had the Zydeco music. And for a fashion show, you just don't anticipate, you know, opening with a Western scene and Zydeco music. So the audience was on their feet. They were excited. So that's the kind of thing you can expect when you come to a 40 plus show. Yeah,
you know, the good thing about it is that you guys are full of surprises. You just never know what's going to happen next when you see the 40 plus show going on. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of Let's Talk About It and my wonderful guest, Miss Debra Lockett. You guys stick around. Hello and welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk About It, where my guest today is none other than Miss Debra Lockett of 40 Plus. 40 Plus is an organization that's here in the city of Houston. Thank you guys so much. That's our wonderful audience that's here today, and I'm so glad they came. 40 Plus is an organization of models that are over the age of 40.
Exactly.
You know, which I think in itself is awesome. You know, and now let me tell you one of the things that I noticed when I went to your show, and you mentioned it earlier. The women are of no particular size. There are from very thin women to voluptuous women. It's just a full range of women that you guys have on the stage. Now, I'm assuming that was a purpose act.
Oh, definitely. Because you have to remember the audience. We want to show clothing that reflects the audience. And we have clothiers who support us, and they want to move those clothes.
Okay.
So we don't want a size 0 and 2 only on the runway.
Right.
Because the clothiers who support us and supply us with the clothing, we want to make sure that they can move their clothing also. It should be a win-win situation for them, that they get to provide us with the clothing, and then also for us, because then that's less clothing that we have to provide for that particular show or that scene.
Okay.
So that it was definitely designed that way. And again, the audience, they want to see something real.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to see something that might look well on them at their size or their age, and so it just makes sense for it to be a win-win on both behalves, the clothier and with 40 plus.
Okay, okay. So basically, I guess what you're saying is you want them to have relatable clothing.
Yes, exactly.
So that anybody who sees this can say, hey, you know what? She's a size 16. She looks good. I can wear that same thing too.
Exactly.
That's kind of how it works.
That's exactly
All
how
right,
it works.
all right. Now, you also cater to the men that are over 40 as well.
Yes, yes. Now, think about this. It's a fashion show. Normally, it's mostly women's clothing, but if you're a woman going to a fashion show, it's nice to see women clothing because we buy a lot of clothes.
Right.
But how much nicer would it be to see a good-looking man embrace the runway over the age of 40?
Okay,
So,
okay.
There are times on the runway, and like you said, you've been there.
Yes.
And you've participated in the show. But there are times on the runway when a man comes out and he has it going on. Depending on the color of the napkin on the table, we remind them that the napkin is not just to wipe your lips,
Okay.
but it is to let us know you like what you see.
All right, all right.
And if the napkins are white, you just might see a sea of white
Come on now.
in the audience. And we've got a few men that just have the women going crazy. And as a matter of fact, before I became 40 plus, of course I've attended every show, and I would just be there to support and help my mother in the back and whatever, and I'd grab a seat. But there were times when a good-looking man approached that runway, I'd have to say, "Excuse me, honey." And I'd wave my napkin too. It's like, you know what? He's got it going on. So we like to see the nice clothing, but we like to see good-looking men dressed really well.
Okay, so that's a part of the entertainment as well.
That is a part of the entertainment.
Right,
It
right.
sure
Now,
is.
you know, there is I know of one of the models that's in your show often. I think his name is Alfred Moody.
Alfred Moody, yes.
Now,
yes.
from what I understand, Mr. Alfred Moody is a showstopper when he hits the stage.
He is a showstopper. He's breathtaking, and he is one of those men that the younger women, well, older too, love to see him on the runway. He has a style of his own. As a matter of fact, I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking a lot about how many men try to emulate him.
Okay.
But if you could just maybe take one little thing from him and what he does, then you create your own style.
Yeah.
Many times he'll wear a bow tie. Everybody can't wear a bow tie.
Yeah.
You know? So if you can wear one, then you put your taste and your style maybe with that bow tie and make your own statement, not a Moody statement.
I got you. So you basically customize it to fit you.
That's right, exactly. But yes, he is a showstopper. Another a young man that's an older young man.
Okay.
Is Mr. Davis, and he's one of our guest models.
Okay.
He's a showstopper. I think all of our men are showstoppers, depending on your taste. So I don't want to necessarily brag on one particular man.
one. All
because
right.
the one time that you were in the show, I'm sure you were a showstopper, and you had some napkins flying out there too.
Is that right?
Oh, you know.
If I ever do it again, I'm gonna be watching for them napkins pouring out our night.
You know you did. But one thing about Mr. Davis, he's smooth.
Yeah.
And he takes his time, because when you're seasoned and of age and you still have it going on, then the women love that too. So
Yeah.
we just have a little bit of everything.
Everything. So tell me this, Deborah, what's the ratio of men to women in the organization?
Well, it depends, because we have our regular models, such as Moody, that he participates in shows with us throughout the year.
Okay.
And he's a part of 40 plus. And then for the big show, we call the big show, which is in April every year, we have guest models.
Okay.
And they're not with us throughout the year when we do shows for sororities, fraternities, churches, and that sort of thing. So the ratio is kind of hard to say. It just depends, because during the big show we have more men than normal. We may have 10 to 12 men in our show, and we may have 30 women.
Okay. Okay.
So it just depends. But for the big show, of course, there's a lot more men. We have guest models, such as yourself. When you were with us, you were not your regular everyday 40+ model, but you were one of our male guest models. And that's the only time we take guest models, and we don't ever take women guest models because we have enough.
Oh, okay.
And you have
so the women are plentiful.
They're plentiful, and they're with us throughout the entire year, and they participate, you know, on a regular basis. And you have to become part of the organization to be a 40+ model.
Okay, gotcha.
As far as the women are concerned.
As far as women are concerned. Okay.
But we will accept a few guest male models only in April.
Only in April.
And we still have to kind of work with you. And Moody is one of our choreographers, our male choreographer.
Okay.
So he choreographs scenes for the men. And then, of course, we have others. We have Octavia Reed Jones. We have Vivian Singleton is one of our choreographers. We have Joyce Whiting. Am I forgetting anybody?
Vernita Graves.
Vernita Graves, yes, is one of our choreographers. So they work all year long with the women to put these scenes together.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I want to go back a second. You mentioned churches and different organizations that call you guys. How exactly does that work when they call the 40+ models to come out?
When you get our name, number, and you finally talk to one of us, we'll refer you to a business manager. And our business managers, Ursula Jones and Esther Lunnan, is our business managers for this year. And what they will do is contact the churches, or they'll contact us, and we'll put together a program for them to suit their occasion, because they may have they may want to have a fundraiser for the Mission Society within the church.
Okay.
And we are very reasonable in cost, and that allows them to actually raise funds by using us as a mean of entertainment.
Got you.
So we're their entertainment for whatever function they're actually having. Again, sororities, churches, fraternities, whatever the situation may be. So they'll contract us out.
Okay.
And we'll put on a fashion show. Usually it's not on the same scale as the big show.
Right.
Because the big show in April is a full production. It's a full production. But we put on fashion shows for them that will accommodate their needs.
Right.
So that they can raise money for whatever they're raising their funds for.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a scholarship. It can be something different or in that church organization.
Exactly. One thing we ask them to do, though, is to come back and support us in April. That's the reason that our fees are so at a minimal, because we want them to come back and support us. We've supported you in putting on a fashion show for your needs, and now when we give these scholarships away, we want you to come and support us and be a part of our big show. So it's, again, a win-win for everybody.
Which makes a lot of sense. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of Let's Talk About It, and my wonderful guest, Ms. Debra Lockett. You guys stick around. All right, welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk About It, where my guest today is Ms. Debra Lockett. For those of you that may have just joined us, Debra Lockett is the CEO of the 40+ models here in the city of Houston. They're doing big things. Debra, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here. It's been exciting.
Now, you know, with any business or any plan that we have for our lives and our future and goals, there's always challenges that come along.
Yes.
You know, it's never an easy thing, but it's always worth it when we see the end result. Now, being the CEO of 40+ models, what's been some of the hurdles that you've had to overcome and climb to get to where you guys are today?
Well, one of our biggest hurdles, I would think, would be coming up with the funds to actually supply the students with the scholarships. Now, we do a great job in selling tickets. We do a great job in selling ads. One of the things that I'd like to see us do better in, and it's providing corporate sponsorship. We need corporate sponsors to come forth and say, you know, I'll be a part of the team, or I will support you financially, because the hotel is not cheap.
Right.
It's not free. And then we have gratuity that costs quite a bit of money. So when you're looking at raising money, and the hotel might cost, I won't throw a number out there, but a huge chunk of what we raise goes towards gratuity and the hotel. So if we had some underwriters, some supporters that would step forth and help us out, that would be great. So that's been a challenge in getting supporters. And I know sometimes we say the economy is tough or rough, but you know, I don't claim any of that. There's somebody out there that's willing to help us and to support us financially. One of the other challenges I think I would say would be always having someone on board that will help us with the legal challenges that we have.
Okay.
We want to always make sure that we're in compliance.
Yes.
And being a nonprofit organization, that can be a bit costly also. So from the standpoint of being a president or CEO, I'm always trying to look ahead, and I have a wonderful staff as far as board members that support and say, now, you know, let's keep in line and let's keep focused on what we've got going on right now, and at the same time trying to look ahead and see what direction we really want to go, because there's so many things we can do. We would love to have a building of our own so that we don't rent constantly, to have meetings and rehearsals and things like that. That's been a challenge. We can also at some point have our own line of clothing. I mean, that's just a vision that I have. I know we have other clothiers who support us, and we thank them. They support us, and we support them. But how wonderful would it be to have a Calie Watson line of clothing or boutique?
Right.
So that when you see these wonderful clothing at the big show, you can
they're
say,
accessible.
This is where you go to get this. But at this point, we support our local clothiers who support us and show them where to go. So that's been another challenge. We talked a little bit earlier about the challenge of the accident that I had.
Yes, I definitely wanted to talk about that. You know, and one of the purposes of the show is to educate, motivate, and inspire. And certainly the inception of 40 Plus was definitely an inspirational story when someone just started with a vision, and now years later it's happening, and it's happening big here in the city of Houston. But as far as challenges are concerned, I know that you just recently, well, within a year, had a very, very personal challenge. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Well, I had an accident. It was really they call it a freak accident, where my vehicle was not in park. We felt that it was in park, and it wasn't, and my mother was in the car. And I realized that the car was in reverse, and I had to jump in and save my mother because it was actually pulling her. And I had a part of my left foot that was severely damaged. I won't go into how severely, but it was severely damaged. And I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. And this is the part that really blesses my soul, when the organization pulled together and they kept things going. And they tried to think like I would think and do that. Well, you know, Debra would want it this way, and she would want us to do that. And they just did a marvelous job. And in the end, I had about 8 surgeries.
Wow.
To put my foot back together again. And it's been almost a full year's journey. I've had different devices on my foot, from walkers to casts to rods in my leg, and that sort of thing. But the most beautiful part about it was that the entire city, because of 40 Plus and my church and my husband's class of 66, they were all praying for me. And I felt the prayers. And when I would see people, they would say, you know, I've been praying for you. And I said, you know, I know it. I may not know when, where, what time, but I could feel the prayers of the people who were really praying for me. And they would joke with me, some other 40 Plus, to help make me feel much better. They came to see me, and flowers and that sort of thing. But I just feel that God allowed it to happen for a reason. He makes no mistakes. So he allowed it to happen so that I could give him the glory in everything that we do. Sometimes we forget to put God first. Now, you didn't mention that I'm a pastor's wife. So when I think about all that's going on with me, with the church, with 40 Plus, with my personal life, I was going at 110. I mean, I was going. And it was a situation where it forced me to slow down a little bit. And smell the roses. And think about what God really wanted me to do. There were times I would be in the hospital, and I didn't want radio, television. I didn't want anything and anybody except me and the Lord. and he showed me some things that he really wants me to do. But the main thing
Wow.
was to give him the glory in everything that we do, because you never know when it's your last time. I want you to know that I saw my life flash before me when that car was rolling up my body.
Wow.
And I could say only 3 things when it was happening, and my mother was, you know, calling out, and I just said, Jesus, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
Jesus, 3 times.
Mm.
One for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Come on now.
And he saved me, he saved my mother, and he let me know that my work is not done down here.
Mm.
And everything we do, but everything we do, we need to get our priorities straight.
Yeah.
You know, every time I see someone in a disagreement, I say to them, you know what, somebody just got the news that their child died or that they have cancer, but we want to argue and disagree over the fact that you didn't speak to me this morning.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see me here this morning when you spoke.
Come on
Time
now.
out.
Yeah.
Time out, follow that. Life is too short. And who would have ever guessed that I would have been in that situation? And I promise you, it was so that God could get the glory.
Yeah.
Because as a pastor's wife, I'm always telling people, oh, keep your head up, be encouraged, I'm going to pray for you.
Mm-hmm.
But now what am I going to do when the foot is on the other?
There you, literally.
Yes, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So now how am I going to handle the situation?
Right.
And people are watching, every one of you. You may not think that you're a role model to somebody, but it doesn't matter who you are. Somebody's watching you, and they're watching how you act and how you carry yourself. And you have to be conscious of those things, and just remember that God is in the mix.
He's always in control.
He's in control.
You know what? This is a great way to end our show. Man, what a testimony. You know, without a test, we would never have a testimony.
Yes, Lord.
And oftentimes, God has to do certain things in our lives in order for us to
Yes.
have a testimony to bless other people that come behind us.
That's right.
So when you talk about people watching you, yeah, people are watching you, and they're seeing how you handle this thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And real quick, I want to say, when I was told about the accident, one of the things that was said to me was that your attitude was really good. And so often our attitude determines our
Altitude.
Come on now.
That's right.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of Let's Talk About It. Now, for more information on our show, you can certainly reach me at Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. That's Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. And for more information on 40 Plus Models,
On April the 6th, you can go to our website, Facebook, and also on your, is it YouTube?
yes. Yes.
Yes.
This show will also be available on our YouTube channel. You guys definitely want to see this, and send it out to everybody that you know so that you can encourage, inspire, and motivate through this show. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition.